Welcome back to the Krown crypto channel, wishing you a happy early start to this Sunday morning over here as we get prepared to talk about the higher term timeframes. So today's folks going to be on the very high term timeframes, something that doesn't really get updated all that often, but a few new things actually to be discussing, and of course even a setup in front of our very faces as well, which actually fired off I think officially yesterday, but we'll go over that actually in the very beginning of this video. Anyways, other than that, it's like wait until the end. No, it's right at the beginning actually. It's the old YouTube trick. Anyways, yeah, so other than that, I want to once again give the spotlight to the buy bet promotion going on. They got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. Plus, you can even get the Joule free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And then, of course, because there's been a whole calamity with buy Bitcoin KYC and pretty much all exchanges kind of following suit, as is inevitable, of course, they do have a decentralized exchange arm, which you may or may not be valuable to you. And of course, there is an affiliate link to that in the description below as well, which will award you 5% off of your fees for the lifetime of your account. All right, cool. Let's just jump right into it. Starting off right in over here with the good old setup right there. Anyways, this is a 12-hour time frame, and it's a very simplistic one. We're looking at the Joule light in this case, and anytime that we do see, not anytime that we do see, but the setup is when the Joule light goes below about the 40 read right here. We can actually raise it up for the 12-hour time frame, and then turns white on the first tick alongside PMARP being below 50. That has led to, well, a nice probabilistic bounce. In fact, if we go ahead and use a strategy tester over here and throw this on, there we go. We can see very clearly that out of the past 65 iterations on the 12-hour time frame, which basically takes us back for years, 73, almost 74% did play out with a nice profitable bounce from the entry given. So the official entry would have been Friday, Saturday, basically, depending upon your time zone. Basically exactly where Bitcoin is at right now as well, 26,800 or so. Other than that, this is taken on average about 19 bars to play out. So 19 bars on a 12-hour time frame would be what? Just under 10 days, assuming that my mental math is going correctly today. But I think it's okay because I got a good night's sleep, and even the allergies are starting to wear off. Or I don't know if the allergies are starting to wear off, but like all of the suggestions for things to do to get rid of allergies, I think is working. I think it's actually working. So a massive and sincere thank you from me to you, because I've been overloaded with just a bunch of home remedies, which actually is really useful, because honestly, the over-the-counter meds, they don't really work, or at least if they do work, they make me fucking sleepy, and I don't like that, because I want to be sleepy at bedtime, not in the daytime. Anyways, we got shit to do. Anyways, yes, let's go into the performance summary over here, see what the average winning trade was looking like, and then we'll go over failure conditions as well. But in this case, the average winning trade was just under 7% from that entry. So in this case, that would theoretically put Bitcoin, if it plays up to the average, actually in the mid $28,000 territory, somewhere around 28.5, 28.6 region. Again, there's going to be some variance in those results, obviously, but we've seen this setup play out actually a few times, even in the past, couple months here. We had this one from March, we had this one more recently from April, and another one in May over here. Again, it doesn't happen all that often, being that it is a 12-hour time frame, but when it does happen, results are typically quite powerful. Here's the thing though, just like before, when we were looking at the 6-hour time frame setup from this past week, 73% or 70+% for that matter is not 100%. Doesn't mean that it's 100% guaranteed, and it's kind of inevitable, because we've seen so many of these work out to the point where it was like I wasn't sure if I should continue to talk about it, because I don't want people to just blindly fucking go into these things. I just want to be showing statistics in their base format, and then you make the decisions for yourself, obviously. But anyways, my point with that is that yeah, we saw one fail this past week. So again, they're not infallible. They can obviously fail. They can and will fail. In fact, about 3 out of 10 times they will be failing. Anyways, in this one over here, what essentially would be the failure condition for this one? Below about $26,000, or yeah, about 26,200 on a closing basis for the 12-hour time frame. Until then, setup is active, and upside a little bit more likely. Although here's the thing, if we do go back into the strategy tester with about a 73-74% strike rate, let's just see, the last one, or we had a win over here, so that's 2 out of 2. So I guess this would be 3. And the one before that, before I started counting over there, was a loss, obviously. So, could it be more like that this one's going to be a win? You can typically kind of expect 3 wins for every four trades. Yeah, I guess that could be in there as well. I mean, it actually played out quite well over here. Loss, win, 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 loss. Hey, Interesting. All right, cool. Let's go into the HPDR ranges over here. Just wanted to follow up on these. 12-hour time frame actually summarizes it quite well. We do see that the bottom side of the current range, basically the lows on a closing basis, what we did see on Friday in the like 26,400-ish region, meaning that as long as Bitcoin's above there, short-term bouncies a little bit more likely. Median is coming in right around 28,000 bucks or so. So it'd kind of be like a bit of a magnet, assuming that we do start to see volatility contraction, which is actually starting to happen over here. So that would be a good thing as well. And then of course, we want to see that jewel light bounce follow through here too. Top side of the range is about 29,400, so not really seeing anything like super significantly different as long as Bitcoin's below that region. But of course, popping back above the median would be a good indication that Bitcoin's going to continue sideways within this overall range between about 29.5 to the upside versus kind of where we're at to the downside right here. And the upside bias would still actually remain within that range, which is good for the boo laws, obviously. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, I did want to focus on stochastic momentum, and just we were kind of looking at on the daily over here, the daily time frame stochastic momentum, a couple things going on. One, we haven't really seen like the true break yet. I mean, you can kind of argue that, right? Because like we were looking down from like 28.5 down to like 25-ish. We got into 25s, but it was kind of like the upper 25s. But we haven't really seen like a humongous, tremendous break. And this has kind of allowed the daily stochastic sort of to have more or less a reset. It's not even in the critical zone just yet, but it's very, 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 very close. So, to me, it's like, okay, does Bitcoin try for a bounce here and then come a little bit further down and then set it up? Perhaps yes. Does Bitcoin try for a bounce here and just reclaim itself? I mean, possible as well. But the second thing that's going on is that we also do, god damn it, there's just too many fucking lines. Oh god. It's like a blight on my eyes. But yeah, if we do mark off the nice regression coming in from about a couple of months ago, starting in March, we can see that this trend line's actually been holding in those major lows, the March lows connected with the April lows, and then potentially the May lows over here as well, which on the chart, that was this low right here at basically 20,000 bucks. That was this low over here more recently in April, late April, that is at 27 before marching up to 30, and then potentially this low over here as well. If that trend line does get broken, another good indication that Bitcoin does have another significant leg to the downside in the short term before a bounce. So again, the picture that I'm kind of painting right here is Bitcoin's more likely to bounce in the short term, but bounce not the same thing as reversal. Realistically, it's probably going to be more sideways, honestly, if anything, on the higher term timeframes. But going through the other lower term timeframes compared to the daily, 12-hour timeframe is going to be showing actually upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 26,200. Oh, by the way, the daily, I completely forgot to completely whiffed on this one, but the daily will cross the upside officially for the first time since basically early May if Bitcoin does close today above 26,450, which right now it's about 400 bucks above. So, not so bad right there. Anyways, 12-hour coming in from the critical zone, 26,200 going to be the magical number. 6-hour time frame is going to be showing upside above 26.5. So we see a lot of these numbers coming in around these same pivots. 4-hour time frame, same exact pivot as well, 26.5 here too. And then hourly is going to be actually up as well, above 26,750. So again, what does that kind of align with? Maybe a bit more sideways. But as long as Bitcoin's above about 26.2, 26.4, depending upon what time frame you're using, it does seem like sideways and in at least a short-term bounce are probably more likely. Does not negate, however, the higher term time frame setups to the downside just yet. Anyways, moving on from there, I did want to get into the very, very high term timeframes in this case. We're going to be going over the 4 monthly time frame. And I just wanted to, put things into perspective because I do think that, it's like there's a lot of things to address here. Okay, so first things first. I continue to see like the same sort of bearish voices in the market that this is a massive bull trap and Bitcoin's coming down to like 10,000, 12,000, 8,000, whatever these numbers are. I think that when you look at the monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, 4-month, 6-month, even the 12-month, I think this is just less and less likely. I remain with my worst case scenario here in the sense that we'd see a move down to about 21,000 bucks or 22,000 bucks, somewhere around there. I think that's the worst case scenario, and I think it would ultimately be an opportunity. This is a 4-month chart right here, and I think it kind of clears things up rather rapidly. The 4-month time frame also having that hidden bullish evidence drive over here. And to be fair, I mean, this has another 3.5 months basically to play out, but ultimately that would imply Bitcoin's more likely to actually trade up into the deeper $30,000 territory sometime within that time frame. than not, and probably get rejected there. And that would be the one that, that I'd really be mindful of. The 6-month time frame, same thing here too. It's actually gonna be closing at the end of not this month, but the end of next month, June, that is, of course. And the 6-month time frame, I mean, you do have that same sort of hidden bullish divergence potential over here, which very likely does get confirmed. I mean, anything above 25,200 is going to be marked off as like quite good and very likely to lead towards new highs in the next 6 months after that. Again, we're making like a lot of assumptions here, but that would be basically into end of year. And when I say new highs, I mean new highs on this rally, not new all-time highs. Completely different topic. But again, what does this look like? Well, low, higher low, potentially another higher low right there. I mean, long term, the real question to me is how much does Bitcoin come down here, because it's probably going to be an opportunity. I don't think that Bitcoin's going to like do this where it just goes, oh, sorry, and then something like that, or maybe even like that, like some people are saying as well. It's just like it's not that it's impossible to happen. Obviously, it's everything's possible. It's just low probability, and ultimately we'd have a significant warning before then, below $21,000. That's where things start to really lose their lose like the long term for myself. Until then, there's always going to be a long-term case that, probably looking at a major low. It's just like, where does Bitcoin put in a bottom? Is it right here? Maybe. Is it like just below 25? Yeah, could be as well. Could it be like 23? Could it be 21? Those are the areas that I'm watching essentially. Anyways, okay, cool. So we've gone through that. I wanted to once again bring back this chart as well. This is the MVRV. This is essentially the market capitalization versus the realized cap. And, just kind of visualizing it right here. It's a pretty simplistic chart. It's a fundamentally driven chart, so it's not really based off the technicals that we were looking at earlier, but just want to remind myself kind of where we're in and in the grand scheme of things. And as you can see, just making sure that I'm actually recording, so that's good. Almost got through this one. Didn't even check, man. But as you can see, anytime it's gotten into the green zone and then bounced back above that green zone, it's basically been the beginning of a long-term trudge sideways and up. Not necessarily like, just vertical, but again, a lot of sideways and then upside from there. Very, very similar actually to what we saw back when over here, just, in my opinion. But going over it, the reason why I wanted to bring this one up right here is because the MVRV continues to be, well above that green zone. And so as long as it's above that green zone, I do look at short-term downside moves again as likely opportunities. And as you can see, the major moving averages here, which is a 9 exponential and a 55 exponential, have officially crossed the upside, and we're testing the 55 as of this week. Well, whenever we've seen that in the past, after the MVRV's already hit or not hit the green zone, but crawled its way out of the green zone, we've seen that first test down as, typically an opportunity. We see this over here. We see this over here. It doesn't necessarily test it, but that first move down essentially. We see it over here. This one officially there. We see it over here. Again, doesn't officially test 55, but that first move down, boom, and then buoyed up and sideways and up. And same thing over here as well. So that's kind of the picture that I'm looking at right now. The question is, how far down would we come? Or not we, because you and I are standing here, probably not doing shit, but Bitcoin moving around as it typically does. Anyways, I wanted to represent the other side as well, because there is a good reason to be, looking at potential further downside maybe after the short-term bounce. And I think that is best summarized by looking at the chart of Dixie. So this was a chart that we've been bringing out for the past few weeks here, looking at it as likely entering into a bounce phase. And I believe that's exactly what we're getting right now. We did identify regular bullish divergence come off this last low right here. This is officially starting to play out as of this past week. And I suspect that this one does travel higher, actually. I still remain with about $1.03 to $1.03.5 as very, very likely. In fact, but Dixie is very, very close to there at 102.71 high thus far. But from there, do I think that things trade higher? Yeah, I actually do think that things trade higher here. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this one back at around $1.05, $1.06. So does that put downwards pressure on price action for risk on assets? That's typically what people think. I actually don't align directly with that. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. If you're trading Forex, then fuck yeah. I mean, obviously, especially if you're trading the euro, but if you're trading risk on assets, I don't know if that relationship matters as much. And I'll just give you a very, very quick example right here. Let's see. So where did this rally start? This rally started in 2021. 2021. middle of 20 or early 2021, it looks like, putting the lows over here and then trudged its way up. What happens in Bitcoin and basically all fucking markets in early 2021? They were rallying on to new all-time highs in like one of the most biblical rallies of all time, and it didn't really stop until like early 2022. Well, you can see that, you know, both of them were rallying together, obviously. So I don't think it's like as catastrophic as some people might imply, but in the short term, you know, does that provide the impetus for a bit of a downside? Yeah, I mean, you know, that would be a good counterpoint. But another counterpoint, taking the other side of this one, you know, not to jump around here too much, because I do understand the frustrations with like, hey, it could be this, it could be that. No, I want the statistics to speak for themselves, which I think that was very fucking clear. And if it's not, then you should probably not be on this channel, because you have bigger issues like trying not to drink laundry detergent and getting dressed in the morning, which is fine. You know, it's completely fine. I support you in your plight, but just not the place for you. I could make some very terrible jokes from there, but I think I'm going to hold off for right now. Anyways, going over to traditional markets, we can see that NASDAQ futures closed at their highest level in the past year, or not in the past year, but actually maybe in the past year. No. August highs were actually higher. But the highest levels that we've seen since this year started, actually, which is significant. Obviously, we've even seen the silver cross happen on the weekly time frame over here. If we go down to the daily, you know, looks to me like it's climbing the wall of worry. If we go to the monthly, same thing. If we go to the 6 month, I mean, like, am I going to be bearish on this chart right here? Probably not. Probably not. Anywhere above the last semi-annual high, which was 13,740, which is getting pretty fucking close to right now. It's about $250 off right now. Anywhere above there, I mean, this one's going to get a free ride to like probably 15. You know, I'm curious what the price action people would say about Magic Nil. I wonder if you're watching this right now. If you are, what would you say about this? I mean, I would imagine that your take would probably be, yeah, it looks good, bro. Looks good, bro. I always love talking with Magic Nil. He's like the most cerebral person with like with like the most simplistic things. Like, hey man, how are you today? Well, let me, you know, it goes in like a full on analysis. It's great. It's fucking great, man. Anyways, yeah, same thing on the quarterly as well here. Hidden bullish. Everyone's come off the last couple lows. You know, traditional markets, especially NASDAQ, you know, representing the techs and financials going up. I mean, does it bode well for Bitcoin? Generally it does. So we are seeing a divergence right now where Bitcoin is, you know, coming off the week on mostly a down slump, but, you know, NASDAQ is making new highs on the year. So I am inclined to say that, you know, it's looking, you know, there is certainly a potential for a trap right here. I don't know if you necessarily call it a trap. I mean, Bitcoin did come down like 10% from the current highs, more than 10%, almost 15% maybe. But it's looking more and more like, hey, you know, as long as Bitcoin's above that 26.2, 26.3 level on a closing basis, next move is very likely a bounce. And then the real question is, does the bounce reclaim any significant regions? Significant regions, namely above about 28.5 or so. If you want to, you know, wait for like the full on confirmation, then 29.4 would kind of be the area that I'd be mindful of. But those would be the two big ones, are basically just I mean, you could even say 28 right here would be a big one as well. Yeah, I'd go with 28 and then 29.4, meaning that back above 28, you know, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to play out one of those massive downside moves. Just, you know, worst case scenario, maybe like 25 or 24.8 at that point. And then probably just plays within this range right here. And then back above 29.4, I mean, at that point, kind of have to be looking much further up. I would still say that, you know, deeper 30s would still be on, you know, sometime this year, sometime probably later this year. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Nice and long, babies, as we share our lovely Sunday morning together. Anyways, yeah, I think it's a good place to be leaving off. As always, wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.